Welcome. The purpose of this video is to explain to you how to take your survey and input the data into Microsoft Excel. A second thing that we're going to do in this particular video is I'm going to show you how to combine several different columns into one variable as in your study, which is a requirement for this particular class. So as you can see here, we have a printout, or we have Microsoft Excel happening right here on my computer. There's lots of information in numbers here. So we have a respondent, class, gender, program, I2, I3, I4, etc. There's a lot of information on this. We call it a spreadsheet, as you know. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you how to take your survey information and put it in Microsoft Word. So first, let me show you an image of my survey. So here's a picture of my survey. I scanned it into my computer. And so as you can see here, there's numbers on here, and all these numbers represent something. One of the problems with Microsoft Excel, as you already know, is that Excel is excellent with numbers, but is not able to read words and letters for data analysis. So in order to have success using Excel, I have to take different pieces of information on my survey that are words and make them numbers. Now, the first thing you do is whenever you input surveys, you have to start by numbering all of the surveys. So if you look here up in the upper left hand corner of this image, I have the number 1 here. This corresponds to respondent 1 in Microsoft Excel. So what I do is I put a 1 here, and then I put a 1 right here in Microsoft Excel. Notice how on the top I have names for each column. So column number 1, or A1, right here in the corner, this is respondent. Every respondent has a number. Respondent represents one person from my study. Next, I will explain the others in a few minutes. So going back to my image, you can see that this is for respondent number 1. Now, the next variable for me is year in program, or class. Each number represents a different class at the university where I did this study at. So, freshman is represented by number 1. Notice how I wrote the 1 there. Number 2 means sophomore. Number 3 means junior. Number 4 means senior. So, in my actual printout for Excel, I have numbers here. Here I call years in program class. So for respondent number 1, they were a number 1. What does that mean? Well, if you look at the survey, a 1 is a freshman. That's what it means. Moving on, I have gender here. Number 1 represents male. Number 2 represents female. Going back to Excel, you can see right here that I have the variable gender, and then I have 1s and 2s all the way down. So for respondent number 1, this person was female because number 2 corresponds to female in my study. After this, the next variable that I have is major. And so here I have 5 different categories within major. 1 is for business, 2 for education, 3 for English, 4 for religion, 5 for science. Again, whatever box the person selects, you take the number and you put that in Excel, because the numbers are representing each individual category within a variable. So for respondent number 1, they picked number 2, which means that they were, if I check here again, they were an education major who completed this particular item. Next we have program, and I have 3 different categories under program. 1 is Thai, 2 represent international program, 3 represents ESL. Again, if you look at my spreadsheet in Excel, for program, respondent number 1, put a 2 for program, which means that they are from, if you look closely, the international program. So, by giving every variable here, these are my demographic variables, that's what we call them. By giving every category within a demographic variable a number, I am able to use that number to make different counts within Microsoft Excel. This will be critically important when we start to compare means using t-test and when we start doing correlations, etc. That's several videos from now. Now, for my study, I have some unique questions that you will not include. For example, I asked, how often do you check your cell phone in a day? This is represented by a number. The person could put 5 times, 7 times, 12 times, whatever. Whatever number they put there, I put that right here under the variable check. So for respondent number 1, they check their cell phone 6 times a day. Now, going back, the next statement or the next item is, how much time do you spend on your cell phone in a day? For this, I converted their answer to minutes. So they might say 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour. Whatever it was, I converted it to minutes. And so if you look in my Excel spreadsheet for respondent 1, they claim to spend 1 hour a day using their cell phone, which is, of course, 60 minutes. The next 2 items are just yes and no questions. If the person put yes, you can see I wrote a 1 here. If they put a no, I put a 2. And the same thing for the next item below it. My cell phone use is negatively affecting my studies. They can say yes or no by checking the box. Now, if you look, as I put this information in Microsoft Excel, it will either be a 1 or a 2. And so if we check respondent number 1, they put a 2, so no, cell phone doesn't affect them. And 2, no, the teacher should not include the cell phone in the teaching and learning. This is how you handle your demographics. Every category within a demographic must be given a numerical code, a 1, a 2, or 3, or 4. You put that numerical code in Microsoft Excel and it represents the person's response to that item. This is what you do with the demographics. Now let me show you how to handle actual survey items. Remember, we call them Likert questions. This is much easier. As you can see here in my study, I have 28 items in my survey, 28 statements that they need to respond to. And so the person had to check the box that they most agree with in terms of their reaction to the statement. So this is easy. For example, item number 1, I am confident that I will be a successful student. They had 5 choices. They could strongly disagree, they could disagree, they could be neutral, they could agree, or they could strongly agree. They pick 1. And if you look closely, the numerical code is already there for me on the survey. So if they strongly disagree, I will put a 1 in Microsoft Excel. If they disagree, I will put a 2. If they're neutral, I will put a 3. If they agree, I will put a 4. And if they strongly agree, I will put a 5. That's how it works. Now let me show you how to set that up. In my worksheet, I1 represents item number 1 from the survey. I2 represents item number 2 from the survey, etc. All the way to item 28 because I have 28 questions. So if you look at respondent number 1, he checked the box 2 for the first item, which means that he disagreed with the statement. Let me show you what the statement is. I am confident that I will be a successful student. He said, I disagree with this. He put a 2. So when I put this information in the computer, I put the 2. That's how you do it. Very simple, very clear. And you do this for all items. There's one other thing I need to explain to you. Rows in Microsoft Excel represents each person. So this row here is called A2. A2 represents respondent number 1's response to all the items for that person. So this is how respondent number 1 responded to class, to gender, to major, to program, to how many times he checks his cell phone, the amount of time he fills in the cell phone. All the things in this row represent what respondent 1 thinks are his response to all of the variables on the study. So that's what rows do. Rows cover each person. Columns cover variables. These are all the responses here to class, going all the way down. These are all the responses to gender, to major, etc. Columns represent different variables in your study. You have demographic variables, and you also have Likert type variables, which I'm going to explain in a moment. So please remember, rows represents individual responses from one person. Columns represent responses to variables. That is how it works. There's another key component that you have to do in order to be prepared to analyze your data for more complicated things such as differences between groups and also correlations. It is not enough to just put all the numbers in here. After you put in all the responses for each person, you need to calculate two more variables. For me, in my study, as I shared to you in class, I have two variables. The first one is academic stress, and the second one is cell phone addiction. So what I need to do now is I need to find their average response to the items about cell phone addiction and their average response to the items about academic stress. This is what I need to do because several items represent the one major variable in my study, which for me is either cell phone addiction or academic stress. And then several other items represent the other variable, which might be cell phone addiction or academic stress. That's how it works. You never ask questions directly about the variable. You ask questions that indicate how they feel about the variable. Now, let me show you how that works. If I show you my survey, the first 18 items on my survey are questions about academic stress. I know this because I pulled the scale from the internet based on literature, etc. So I need to find for each person in my study, I need to find their average response to academic stress items. And it gives me a picture of how much stress is in their lives. So let me show you how to do this. I go back to Excel. I need to make a new variable or I need to make a new column. So I'm going to call this AS mean. This stands for academic stress mean. Now, I need to put in my little formula. I click here on the function button, insert function, and I want average. So average is already right here near the top. I click OK. Now I have to tell the computer, or I have to tell Excel, which columns do I want to pull to make an average. As I already told you, I want to find the average for items I1 to I18. So I highlight these going all the way across. For my computer, that is J2 to AA2, J2 to AA2. Once I do that, I click OK. Now, if you look closely, let me zoom in for you so that you can see this clearly. I now have the mean of academic stress for my first respondent. But that is not enough. I must find the mean for all of my people who responded and participated in my survey. To do this, I need to highlight this column and I need to go all the way down to the very bottom. In my study, there was 243 people. So I need to go all the way down to 244. Why do I go to 244? Because the first row has the names of the variables. So I have to go down one extra space. With this knowledge, I click paste, and now I have the average amount of academic stress for everybody who was in my study, all the way down. You can see the numbers as I go past. I repeat this process for my second variable, which for my study was cell phone addiction. So I'm going to just call this cell phone mean, and I'm going to repeat this experience. I'm now going to click on function. I'm going to select average again. I have to again pick, and so for me it's going to start from I-19 because I-19 is where I began to ask, or where I began to make statements, or I had items that refer to cell phone addiction. So from I-19 all the way to I-28. I select that and then I click OK. Now I take these results and I do it for everybody. Highlight that, go all the way down to row 244. Paste, and now I have the average response to items about cell phone addiction. These are the two critical steps that you need to do. We're going to use these columns several times in videos in the future. Of course, the other videos are talking about different variables, but the same concept applies. Please remember that. So, I hope that this video helps you to understand how to input your data into Microsoft Excel and how to calculate the average for each variable in your study. The other variables in this lecture series uses a different data. It uses data about cafeteria satisfaction and satisfaction with the university. However, the principles stay the same. As you look at the future videos, they will show you how to compare means, how to get descriptive statistics, how to calculate correlations. This is introductory statistics for using Excel. And I hope that this video will help you as you continue in your data analysis.